This is Sybert signing into Tib Dawn on the map Quarry. We are in some more remaster. It has been quite a long time, super long time indeed. I'm curious to see what's changed, what's still the same in the north as the blue. This is JulzzZ, playing as PZ, and in the south, in the red, this is ViciousKid. Alright guys, we have got ourselves a nod mirror going on. The map is Quarry. I've seen this one a couple of times, and of course in that classic Tib Dawn Remastered look. Again, I have not seen a remastered game in quite some time. A little bit of a silo expansion down to the south for ViciousKid, and then a double refinery follow-up for that southern Tiberian field. And look at this, JulzzZ doing the exact same thing, aka PZ. I don't know why the names aren't displaying here. It used to display names. I'm not sure, again, how much has changed. And then some lovely infantry scouting around the map for both of these guys. A couple of riflemen, a couple of flame squads moving around the map for each player. Quarry, seen this one once before, and it's a nod mirror. So for all of you in the comments who just want to call this out as bike buggy, all game, maybe it will be, but we've seen Quarry before, and we've also seen nod mirrors that actually were interesting, where something cool did happen, and that is what we are all hoping and praying for here today. JulzzZ expanding towards the middle of the map, and right on cue, almost with the same kind of buildings, we have the same thing going on here for ViciousKid. First buggy going to be coming out for JulzzZ, being the aggressor, being the one to try and get out onto the map into a position, but he is going to be getting pushed back here by ViciousKid. And the frenetic style that Tib Dawn and Red Alert typically devolve into already beginning. 4 buggies in the south, now 5 buggies in the south for ViciousKid as a defense against the buggies of JulzzZ. And sometimes, you know, Red Alert 1, Tib Dawn, they just turn into these numbers games, but so many times it's about a numbers game leading into a stalemate, leading into purely positional play. So in this case, it's about trying to pull back that one buggy for JulzzZ. The overwhelming numbers drafting onto the side of ViciousKid. He's getting a bit of an advantage there, and JulzzZ trying to sneak a single buggy by into the back of ViciousKid's base and harassing his harvesters a little bit there. I think he's literally just blocking that patch for the harvester, which is denying that harvester entirely because it does not like auto route to another refinery or something like that. So that's just one harvester essentially out of commission by JulzzZ not even having to kill it. ViciousKid trying to sneak around to the left side a little bit there, but not quite working out. Buggies once again going to be engaging in the middle of the map, but once again it's overwhelming numbers for ViciousKid. A couple of bikes mixed in for... Actually, it's just the one bike. I thought there was a second bike on the reinforcement path for JulzzZ, but it's just the one. He's trying to pick off a couple of additional buggies. If he could take down those buggies, he would certainly even up the numbers, and then he would be feeling a little bit better about himself. I feel like people are now going for way more refineries than they used to. This 6 refinery play at the 3-4 minute mark feels faster than we used to get refineries in Tib Dawn in the past. Maybe it's not, maybe that's purely perception on my part, but it feels like it's a bigger refinery game now than it was, which if it is, that's kind of interesting to see a kind of small way that the meta or that the strategies are getting developed and figured out by these players. As I mentioned, I have not been playing... Well, actually, I haven't been playing much of anything recently. That's not true. I haven't been playing much of anything on my computer recently. It's all been Switch. It's pretty much all been Breath of the Wild because I'm about 100 years behind in the video games. But I have not been playing anything on my computer, which includes Remaster. One refinery, rather, taking a little bit of damage there. Not really getting low, but taking a bit of damage and striking down those further out refineries. Well, it's not going to happen here, but it could be definitely a strong move for either player to be able to strike down one of those further refineries that are closer to the late-game Tiberium deposits as this game progresses on, and pretty, not totally stalemated, but pretty heavy entrenchment on both sides for each player. We haven't been doing a good job of keeping an eye on the airstrips, but it does look like it's double airstrip production for each player. Perhaps a third airstrip sneaking out somewhere, but no, I don't think my eyes deceive me. I believe it's just double airstrip for each player, which is a good amount of production for them both to be keeping that money low, as you can see on the right side, keeping it near zero for most of the game. Buggies engaging in the south. It looks like the numbers are once again going to be swinging into the favor of ViciousKid, who seems to be winning a lot of these small arms engagements, but not able to really push that into anything and create any kind of damage on the JulzzZ side of the map. Once again, bike buggy numbers on the right side. I guess JulzzZ is the only one with bikes, but it's all buggy numbers from the side of ViciousKid, and that may actually turn against him here in the south, as he's going to get overwhelmed if he sticks around. He pulls back, and in the north, he's managed to push away JulzzZ, so he's kind of losing ground in the south, but maybe holding his ground in the north is the tale for ViciousKid. Lots more buggies on the reinforcement path for JulzzZ. A couple of bikes as well. When is ViciousKid going to try and start working those bikes into his own numbers? Two armies engaging in two different spots, and it looks like ViciousKid may be losing the fight on both fronts. If JulzzZ is able to pull this together, he could completely annihilate these three refineries, which would be very problematic for ViciousKid and might just kind of end the game. His reinforcements are coming in from the south. His reaction time is a little bit late. How many refineries will he lose? Maybe none. If his defense rather, is good enough. A turret going to be going down, helping to push back these units near the weakened refinery in the north. These bikes and buggies are trying to hold off the reinforcements from ViciousKid. JulzzZ is not targeting down that refinery with everything he's got. He's more interested in just targeting down the units of his opponent. He may still barely get this refinery as a second turret goes down, and JulzzZ is going to have to pull away from the front line. A hearty attack, but a one that was very costly on each side. At the same time, JulzzZ expanding into the middle of the map, and I'm going to guess that wasn't intentional, losing that harvester in that way. JulzzZ expanding into the middle of the map, but also into the north and the south, and those are going to be key areas as this game continues to progress. I'm surprised by how much Tiberium still remains in this north and south pocket of the map. Both JulzzZ and ViciousKid have not totally claimed those edge areas of the map. And a couple of bikes, or a couple of buggies rather, on the right side by JulzzZ, cutting off that power plant little move there, which is a great move by JulzzZ, just to stop that power plant creep up to the north to try and deny it, as Harvester is going to be potentially going down on both sides. An obelisk firing off somewhere on the map. I'm not actually sure who dropped the obelisk, as it looks like a cargo plane even getting stuck there on the left side of the map. ViciousKid continuing to press on forward. JulzzZ, without the reinforcements, isn't going to be able to stop that attack on the left side of the map. Meanwhile, on the right side of the map, JulzzZ continuing to halt the advance of those power plants. ViciousKid is now going to be getting stopped here on the left side of the map. He will not progress any further, and this refinery in the south may just barely die or barely survive. It barely goes down just before a turret finishes. JulzzZ, unable to defend that spot on the left side of the map, will be losing that southern expansion, but also doing a bit of damage, stopping the northern expansion coming out from ViciousKid, and he's going to be losing his last buggy, his last rifleman there on the right side of the map. An absolute slaughter back and forth between these two players. It has been bike and buggy every single moment of this game. I guess technically there was some infantry in the beginning, but really it's been bike and buggy the whole game long. But these two guys are trying to find the angles. They're trying to find the openings. In the north, it's ViciousKid, but now he's pulling back. Bike buggy swarm in the defense for JulzzZ. He's managed to hold on to a refinery in the south. After losing it, he's rebuilt a little bit here. And the economy for ViciousKid, it's doing great. He's got 2.5k, but he's not spending his cash, whereas JulzzZ is staying on top of that spending. And in the next minute or two, we'll have to see if that actually works out to be an army advantage for JulzzZ, or if ViciousKid's defense is good enough. Right here in the north, ViciousKid is coming out pretty even, but he's going to lose out to JulzzZ's forces. He doesn't want to meat grinder those reinforcements any further than he already has. Finally, the refineries in the north going to be going down, but JulzzZ is going to be looking to punish that. I don't know that he actually has the numbers. He might be able to dive on a refinery and get a kill, but the reinforcements here from ViciousKid, plus the turret now dropping down, should be enough to hold off this attack. JulzzZ might get a couple of kills. No, he's going to have to pull back. No more damage to really be done in the north. Meanwhile, ViciousKid pushing in the south, once again trying to strike down this refinery, having a bit of deja vu, wondering where it came from, how it got back into this position. As just barely those turrets are going to be able to hold off the first wave, but the second wave shows up. 4, 5, 6 more buggies going to be showing up. They're going to go down to the turrets and the reinforcements of JulzzZ, but just barely don't get the kill on that refinery. I thought the refinery was dead for sure, but as it turns out, it's not quite gone yet. JulzzZ even going to be dropping a Hand of Nod, some late-game rifle infantry just to bolster his defenses, and I guess that's the name of the game, is just trying to add that extra bit of firepower from the rifleman squad to be able to make something stand up a little bit longer against these buggy numbers. A couple of MLRSs, whatever those, what's the order of those acronym? Mobile rocket launching, so I guess MRLS. Going to be able to put some damage out, and of course they're going to be critical to breaking any defenses like any surprise obelisks or taking out power plants from a distance. One MRLS pulling back there. Third one in the north. One of them may have actually gone down, but 4 MRLSs on the side of JulzzZ, and I think none on the side of ViciousK1d, although ViciousK1d nicely targeting down 2 of them extremely quickly there with just his buggy numbers. This guy is insistent that buggies will be the only way he wins this game. JulzzZ is varying up a little bit, a couple of bikes, a couple of MRLSs in this match, but it's in the north here. There are a couple of refineries going to be vulnerable, although the power plant could also be a viable target for ViciousK1d to try and pull this off. Big wave of reinforcements coming in from ViciousK1d. Can he tip the tide right here? JulzzZ's defense has been good up to this point, but he's losing potentially some infrastructure. The refinery's standing. Now there's the target down. One refinery down. The second one is going to be shortly lived as well, but will ViciousK1d be trading infrastructure for his army, or can he escape out with a couple of his many buggies? A couple of the buggies sticking around to engage with the turrets, and they will lose their lives as the MRLS clears up the infantry as well. I'm not sure what that was down south. That was potentially that one harvester that was running around the base of ViciousK1d from JulzzZ. And JulzzZ, he's been pushed back in the north. He has been pushed back a little bit in the south. Another jump of these buggies, going to be able to target down a harvester. And once again, the late-game economy can be so thin already. Losing refineries, losing harvesters can be an absolute death stroke for a player as the Tiberium gets further and further away from where you started, and the amount of Tiberium just lessens over time. And with the limited resources, the stalemate may begin. ViciousK1d trading out a good number of his buggies, but he's getting good value for them generally. Is it going to be enough, though? As another turret goes down and an MRLS going to be doing some big splash damage. Finally, the refinery falls, and the buggies do manage to escape, at least for now, away from the forces of JulzzZ. No, one buggy stays behind and potentially gets caught behind enemy lines and will just be potentially cleaned up by JulzzZ without much recourse. Nope, he's apparently going to stick around and do battle with a couple of riflemen who eventually clean him up. JulzzZ now going to try and strike down at the heart of ViciousK1d. If he can go for the airstrip, that could be lights out having the production of your opponent. As long as you're able to keep your production running with your economy, could be critical. Although the army of ViciousK1d is strong, and with all of the infantry swell coming in, he's going to be able to clean up the forces of JulzzZ. JulzzZ trading out unit for unit, but in the end losing out heavily in that just absolute surround move that ViciousK1d had. ViciousKid now going to be pushing through the middle of the map. His harvesters able to claim some of that Tiberium there in the middle, and the power plants are going to be easy targets as JulzzZ is going to try and mount some kind of a mixed defense, infantry, or bikes, and a couple of buggies, but the turrets also putting out big damage. Now keep in mind, ViciousKid's army is extremely low on health, so JulzzZ is able to even things up with some critical strikes there against those bikes, or rather those buggies. There are like 3 or 4 bikes mixed in here finally from ViciousKid. JulzzZ holds the line. Both of his airfields are still pumping out units. And, well, never mind. That entire army just evaporates as ViciousKid cleans up the north once again, perhaps for the last time, as JulzzZ won't have the cash to rebuild in the north. Can JulzzZ manage to sneak something by? He's got 2 bikes on the right side cleaning up the MCV of ViciousKid, and there's nothing for ViciousKid to respond with. It's so far away, the bikes in response actually going to the wrong patch of ground, and even the engineer might be getting targeted down here by JulzzZ. He does manage to get the kill off with that rifleman spawning out of his bikes, and that will do it for the MCV of ViciousKid. He's still got the army, he's still got the infrastructure, but no more expansion for him. And now JulzzZ is going on the offensive with the distraction of that MCV kill. He's going to be going for the refinery and potentially the power plants of his opponent. He may have found a weakness. He may have found an opening to allow him to do equal damage to his opponent if he gets too many power plants. Any base defenses that remain for ViciousKid may not matter at all, as this is once again apparently a wrong painted Harvester. ViciousKid, a Harvester showing up blue for us. I'm not sure what the bug is there with Red Alert 1 and with Tib Dawn units being painted the wrong color. A couple of Harvesters from JulzzZ going to be going down, targeted by ViciousKid as one power plant after another gets eliminated. And that turret is going to keep the peace for now in the north. JulzzZ pulls back. He's going to be targeting a Harvester way up there in the north. Meanwhile, ViciousKid owns the middle of the map. JulzzZ cannot traverse there. He's still got this refinery down there. Absolute chaos is what this game is devolving into, as both of these guys going to take a moment to breathe after the ridiculousness of the last minute or so. JulzzZ pushing in, killing the MCV. ViciousKid trying to strike down infrastructure of JulzzZ, but not quite pulling it off. JulzzZ managing to keep hold of most of his infrastructure, I think purely due to these turrets that he built 2, 3, 4 minutes ago in this game for a different attack to defend against. And the result was, well, he's got that defense still around. The power plants weren't eliminated. He didn't have to kind of divert forces or sell anything off. He was able to keep those defenses around. And finally, things slowing down a little bit here. Both players hurting pretty badly eco-wise. I mean, it's not uncommon to be sitting at 0 for the majority of the game after like 5 or 6 minutes. But now that we're almost 20 minutes into this game, it's going to be tough for either player to break the other one with the limited funds that they both have. Nice little control patch there in the south for ViciousKid. He's got these 2 refineries, and he's not too far away from the Tiberium. Hand of Nod gets targeted down, and a nuke goes off, catching much of the army of ViciousKid. JulzzZ, with this sneaky nuke, manages to get the kill. Was that even a bait? I don't think so, but it was an opportunity taken by JulzzZ. We even did see a flame tank out in the field somewhere for JulzzZ. It's still here on the left side of the map for him. It hasn't been sent to try and sneak around and get some building kills while the army is engaged in battle over here. Wouldn't be the worst idea in the world if you can pull it off. Although that power plant is defended by a turret, so not sure how many openings JulzzZ would actually be able to find with a flame tank. MRLS getting some good damage off as these bikes and buggies going to be coming forward. Just buggies remaining here, and JulzzZ is going to try and pull off the defense. Good unit control by JulzzZ, trying to rotate out units and keep them alive as the weaker and weaker army of ViciousKid gets lower and lower on health. A little pocket of units for ViciousKid. It's going to be completely destroyed by JulzzZ as the superior numbers and the artillery advantage for JulzzZ leads him to a small army victory. But we've seen so many of these Tib Dawn games get turned around by a player selling off a bunch of buildings late in the game to get a big eco boost and then pump out an army. I don't know that ViciousKid is going to be able to pull this off. JulzzZ jumping on the bikes one after the other, and the infantry squad that gets reproduced, able to clean up almost everything. One more bike does come out for ViciousKid, but there goes all of the infantry in one bike versus 3 buggies and a flame tank. JulzzZ is just going to go straight for the building. He's going to be forcing this one bike to try and kill off all of these units by itself. And of course, ViciousKid out of money at the worst possible time. The flame tank turns around, eats up the bike, and that is going to do it for the active army of ViciousKid. Once he loses this airstrip, it's all over. I think he has no units or almost no units out on the map. It all comes down to this one airstrip that ViciousKid can't repair and can't build anything out of. He gets one bike, but it doesn't spawn, or one buggy, but it doesn't spawn, as even the cargo plane gets in there, and that will do it. The only hope that ViciousKid really has left is to sell off basically everything but the farthest unit, or the farthest building away from JulzzZ, and then try and just man-spam your way to victory. Try and just get a huge swell of infantry to pull off a victory. He sells off a refinery. He's going up against some pretty late-game units, and killing off this flame tank is definitely step 1 of this solution, and that, I think, is going to be it. JulzzZ winning out the war of attrition with no more unit production facilities, unless there's some engineers running around the map, which I don't think there are. It's going to be real difficult for him to come back from this match. ViciousKid fighting the good fight. And, oh no, he's got a big swell of infantry over here on the left side. He's going to try and pull something off, but of course it's not going to work. The comm center will go down, just barely getting eliminated before the infantry swarm gets cleaned up by JulzzZ, and that will do it. That has to be the last shot that he had. I mean, he's got this little cluster of buildings up here. Maybe if he had sold off absolutely everything and just gone gung-ho, sending in the harvesters first to try and absorb the shots of the turret or something, maybe he would have been able to pull something off then. But without any kind of and I mean, even then, like, JulzzZ is no slouch. He's not gonna just let a bunch of infantry walk into his base and win the game when he's got active production, when he's got active economy. So I think that will do it for this match. JulzzZ, there's the fire sale, as ViciousKid drops the GG and drops the game. JulzzZ pulling that one out, and quite a back and forth for a nod v nod. Yeah, it was a whole lot of bike buggy, and that's just about it. But in the end, it ended up being a pretty entertaining match nonetheless. We got to see some lovely micro from these guys. I noticed it more on the JulzzZ side, but maybe I just wasn't paying attention at the right moments to ViciousKid. There just tends to be less micro that you're really doing with pure buggy armies, and more micro that you're doing with mixing in a couple of bikes, targeting down specific units, or keeping your MRLSs or your flame tanks alive. There tends to be more opportunities there. But that being said, thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and this is Sybert, signing out.